We are about 1 month away from the start of early voting in the March primaries. Candidates are hitting the road to get their messages out to voters, and Scott Braddock from Harvey Kronberg's Quorum Report is also on the move, attending all these events, talking to Texans. You got some pretty hot takes on what's happening. So, Scott, first, thank you for being here.
Of course, I always want to see you, talk to you about all this stuff. Just drove all the way back from Houston right now to be on the set with you.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things. You were in Houston, and you were there for an event, one of the events related to the Attorney General's race. Talk to us specifically about the Republicans running in the race. Talk to us about their campaigns and the dynamic in this race.
I mean, since Governor Abbott went from AG to governor, that was more than 10 years ago. This is the first time that this race has been wide open with 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats running. And I was trying to figure out the shape of the race. So when you have that many candidates, it's sometimes hard to figure out who's in the lead, who's behind, who has the advantage, and all of that. So I wanted to see them in person and see what voters' reactions were to the things that they're saying. And one thing that is really interesting to me, and we reported about this at Quorum Report, Chip Roy, the congressman from here in Central Texas, he seems to be the front runner. It seems like his opponents are admitting that he's the front runner. And you may know, he told some of our colleagues up in North Texas late last year, he thinks he can maybe win this with no runoff. One thing that's hobbling him is the fact that he can't be on the campaign trail because he has to be in Washington. You've seen all the reporting, and I know you've talked about it on KVUE, that they only have a 2-seat majority for the Republicans in the U.S. House. And that means Speaker Mike Johnson demands that all the Republicans be on the floor at all times. And this was mentioned at that event in Houston by one of Chip Roy's staffers who got up and spoke on his behalf. Sometimes, right now, there are more Democrats present in the U.S. House chamber than Republicans, because of schedules of people trying to travel and do whatever they're doing. And Congressman Wes Hunt from Houston has been absent a lot, and John Cornyn's been blowing him up about that, but we'll come back to that later. But the fact is, you've got Mays Middleton, Joan Huffman, and Aaron Reitz all vying for a shot. And now we know, in looking at the campaign finance reports, that Middleton has spent at least about $7 million of his own cash on this so far, way more than any of the other candidates, and has about $5 million left to go. He put about $11 million of his own money into the race. Aaron Reitz, who used to work for Ted Cruz, gets a big pop from the crowd. They like him because he's talking, in very stark terms about fighting the evil forces of the left, is what he's talking about.
Right.
Middleton talking about, instilling biblical values in the office of the AG. Oh, this is a hot Republican primary.
It is really hot. And, it's interesting that you say Roy can't really get into the fold. He's got to do the job, and is sort of hoping that people lean on that when it comes to him. I want to also ask you, though, about the race for Senate. I mean, my goodness, so much happening in that race. You mentioned a little bit about what was happening with Wesley Hunt. It seems now Senator John Cornyn turning a little bit of his attention to attacking Hunt. That's kind of new.
Yeah, and Cornyn has started to spend money in a big way to try to keep Hunt's numbers down. That's Cornyn's bid to try to keep himself above 50%. As I have gone around the state in the last few weeks, really after the first of the year, talking to Republican voters and asking them where they're at, those conversations really reflect what we're seeing in the polls, which is Cornyn's stuck. He's not able to move his number higher. He's in the mid-30s, so is Attorney General Paxton, and Hunt is coming on, I would say, somewhat strong, 15 to 20%, something like that, among Republican primary voters in some of these polls. And so it's anybody's guess as to how this is going to go, but I do think we're in for a runoff. The real danger here, and I'm not making any predictions, I don't do that, except when you really press me, but the fact is that it's possible that there's a runoff that Cornyn is not in. And I've talked to Republicans on both sides of that argument, some of Cornyn's supporters who have pointed out that they think it's starting to look a little desperate that he keeps talking publicly about private conversations with President Trump and asking Trump for an endorsement that he keeps not getting. And we saw the reporting out of Washington this week that Trump's not going to endorse in the race. Yeah,
hands off of the race in Texas. We have to quickly talk about the other side. You recently actually went, because you talk about spending money, and obviously those TV ads cost a lot of money. State Representative James Tallarico came out with his first TV ad. Didn't get the reception he was hoping for from some voters.
Yeah, I think it's an introductory ad. It's not going to just blow the doors off of the place, right? He's trying to let people know who he is. The most telling thing along the campaign trail right now is when I ask voters about this race, most voters don't pronounce his name correctly. What that means is they're just learning about him. They don't know who he is. And I hear they say either Tallarico or Talarico, or it's Tallarico. I tell him that. To his credit, when they find out more about him, they do like him, but he's got a lot of work to do. There was one poll I saw was kind of an outlier that had him in the lead. But the other thing that was interesting in some of the numbers is that both Representative Jasmine Crockett and Tallarico, in some of the latest polling, they both are essentially tied with Attorney General Ken Paxton in November. So when Tallarico's campaign makes the case that he's the only one who could be competitive, at least from what we're seeing so far, it's not true.
Yeah, Crockett doesn't have to try to get that name recognition. She's already
but she's starting her latest bus tour. And by the way, she has the same problem that Chip Roy has. She has to be in Washington also because of the tight numbers in the House.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting when you look at what's happening in the House and how it's impacting that race. All right, Scott Braddock, editor of Harvey Kronberg's Quorum Report. We thank you so much for taking some time to share all of that with us.
It's my pleasure, Ashley.